for coming to Summer Film School. It's nice to have you here. And let's go through your filmography and comment on whatever you like. Maybe can we start with your film studies? I read somewhere that during your film studies you wrote somewhere on the wall, "I love Ozu." Why was that?
Do you hear me? It was not exactly that I love Ozu, but it was more profound. It was. You have to be really, really clever to understand this. To the best Costa, I oppose the worst Ozu. I see from your faces you are lost. Costa is an Italian director of, you know, Pedro, like films with in Rome and Greece, you know, ancient Greece and Rome. Those kind of films that they made in the 60s, but today seem very corny, very kitsch. Costa was an Italian guy like that. But with some interesting films. And so I said, I wrote on the wall that I loved Ozu that so much. But, well, it was just something because, yeah, I wrote on the walls because I came from music. My life was supposed to be music, but I had no talent in music. I had the chance of living my young teenage years in that time, the time of the punk rock explosion, let's say. So when I was going through that period of wanting to define my life, the most important form of art was music. It came from England, but then all over Europe and here I imagine the same thing. There were lots of bands and young guys playing and writing and making graphic arts and some films, etc. And just by chance, I was in a band, so, but I was just making noise, like most of the guys, I was just making noise with my guitar. It lasted for 1-2 years. And then with my friends, the friend my best friend, with whom I spent my afternoons and nights and talking and playing and listening to records and discussing things. We saw in the newspaper an ad for the film school, because it was a new film school in my city. And I liked films, but I was not a cinephile. I was not I only saw Citizen Kane, I don't know, 10 years ago. I was not like, I knew I wanted to make films, and I'm not that sort of guy. It's not a vocation. This might shock you, but I really do not like cinema at all. I still don't like cinema. This is a lie. I have something that what I wanted to say is that you can make a film like you play music with just 2 cents, no money. I didn't like the idea that film people and were special people, or, you know, some kind of elected people that could make a feature film, make photography, make sounds, be actors. I think that's completely bullshit. And that feeling that was born when I was young, when I was playing this kind of music, because I didn't know how to play the guitar. I just picked up a guitar in 3 days I was making noise. I was not playing music, but I was making noise. So I went to this film school, and I had a very, very strange interview, because the selection committee, the selection process for this school was an interview with some teachers. You got there, actually something like this. You got into the room and there were 3 teachers, I think, and you had to sit down and answer or talk about why you wanted to come to the film school, why you wanted to do films, talk a little bit about yourself. And so I did that. At that moment I was very, very, well, in music, in punk music, so I was very annoying. If somebody said white, I would say black. If somebody said yes, I would say no immediately, irrationally, just because. It was very easy for me to hate everybody, very easy, no effort. So I got there and I hated the teachers immediately. Intellectuals, I hate intellectuals. Today, I still hate intellectuals. I see some intellectuals in this room, so watch out. And I saw the intellectuals with the glasses and the books and the stuff. But there was a man in the middle of those 3 guys, a man called Antonio Reis. And I didn't know this man. This man was a teacher at the school. He was a teacher of something called, if I remember, I don't remember, actually I can't say. It was a very, he had a course on editing, montage, and composition. But actually, he just rambled, he talked, he rapped for 1 hour in his classes. So I didn't know this guy. He was a very small guy with a black leather jacket. He was 50-something at that time. Very small, very fragile, but at the same time very strong. You could see it was a very tough guy. He was a peasant from the country. And he was a filmmaker, but I was so ignorant, so idiot about film. I didn't know anything. And I didn't know about Portuguese film either. I had never seen them. I saw some commercial Portuguese films like you saw here or there on TV. Like every country has its commercial production, so that's what I knew. But I was completely ignorant. And I started talking my bullshit talk on that interview. And I talked about music, I talked about what was happening, and I said I want to do films like people are playing music, and I talked about my heroes, and nobody in those teachers knew what I was talking about, because I talked about rock bands, and they were in the high spheres, the high culture of cinema, literature, and poetry, and I was in the lowest form of rock and roll. But this man, this Antonio Reis, I saw he was looking at me, and he was very serious, and it bugged me, the other guys just kept asking me things, and he never said a word. So I went away, and I thought I was not accepted. I just insulted them as hard as I could. And I went home, and then 2 or 3 days later I received a notification saying I was accepted. And when I got to the school, this guy, Antonio, said, I want to talk to you, and we began a friendship that lasted until his death. And it was the reason why I stayed in school. Still is for me one of the most unknown. I'll try to tell you this because, well, I don't know, I don't think there are, I'm not sure if there is a film of his playing in the retrospective of Portuguese cinema. I don't think so, because his films are, I hope they are going to be restored soon. There are a lot of complications. He only made 3 films, the best Portuguese films ever. And he was the reason why I stayed in school, and most of all, the reason why I kept, why I began feeling a little bit more respect for the art of filmmaking. It was because of Antonio and the way he talked and the way we then spent, I don't know, 10 years, not more. He died in the year when I did my first film, so he died in 1989. And I was in school in 1982, 81. So I lived with him every day, more or less, for this period of time. And everything I learned from him. And so then I got into this school. I went to Antonio's classes, but Antonio's classes would be about Persian carpets and the caves of Lascaux and the films of Straub. Anyone know Straub? Godard. Anyone know Godard? Or the films of Orson Welles, or but he could talk just about some very strange Hungarian form of poetry. He was a very, he had a real profound, deep knowledge of things. He was interested in something he really knew and could pass on this knowledge. He would make you feel alive. And of course, that's what my first years, that's what we all tried to do when we were playing in bands and etc. We were just trying to be alive with this noise, with this provocation, with this hate or love. And my meeting with Antonio was the same thing. I just understood that films could be a way of living a bit more, with a bit more intensity. But not just when you made them, when you saw them, when you made them, when you thought about them, all the time. It's a very difficult thing, because it's like you want to live like that every second of your life, and you can't. You don't have that talent. In love with everything at the same time. So, and that was his idea, his feeling. But, well, anyway, I was there, and I just went to his classes, and the rest I didn't care much. Because history of cinema, I still don't believe in this kind of history. I have to tell you that I had done before history and university. And I was specialized in the 13th, 14th century European history. So you see what the plague, the Black Plague, the churches, guys, that's what I like. I think it's the best period in human history. It was very serious. And so I had done that, so I really didn't care about history of cinema. It seems absurd for me to just think about that the film by Chaplin is an old film and my films are new or contemporary. It doesn't work that way. It really doesn't work that way. The film by Chaplin is 100,000 times more modern than any film that you will see in this festival. I guarantee. And more revolutionary and more human and more. So, in the other classes I had no interests. I just wanted to have some small knowledge of the techniques, like do sound, work the camera, try to edit the film, and I'm talking about those analogic days because everything was 16, 35 millimeters, editing tables, as we call them. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. It was very mechanical, very manual, very physical, everything was very heavy. And that's what I wanted to do because I thought immediately I'm going to do films more or less alone. And I have to know everything. Because I just came from music and, you know, music to grab a guitar and you go. So for me, films could be made like that way. And then immediately I started working on productions, film productions. I became, for 10 years, I had the worst job of the jobs, the mother of all worst jobs, which is assistant director. And I was a very good assistant director. I did American films, French, Portuguese, German. And I was I did what I was supposed to do, which is support the director, organize a little bit the work, and lie. That's what the assistant director does, it's lying all the time, saying to the director, it's perfect what you've just done, the actor loves you, the producer adores you, and the film is beautiful. Well, if 10 years of lies are the worst, with a lot of money, I was you can be very, very well paid in the film business. And I worked a lot. I was going from one film to another, and I saw all the evil, the machine in practice, all the evil thing of what can happen when art meets commerce or art meets money. And that's the most perverse, bizarre thing that there is, because so I thought one day, I remembered, I thought, what am I doing? I mean, why am I, it's just the money, I mean, it's so much money I'm making, but I hate everything, I hate the films, I hate the crew ambience, you know, because I was not in that kind of sentimentality. And for me at that time it was a nightmare. I had to go have meetings with producers and directors and that had no idea of what cinema is about. I've met the most stupid people in my life, and they are still, I will not name anyone, but you know them. I've made films with Americans and French that are the most idiots in the world, and they still make films. They have no idea what is a lens, what is a microphone, what is life, what is a shot, what is material, spiritual, what is a human being, really nothing. And I had to work with these guys for 10 years. So I had this, I was very anxious. Is this film? This is the world of film? I said, I'm going to do something else, because it was a bad choice. But at the same time, you have these romantic ideas, and I was writing something, film, to be made, and one day it just happened that somebody gave me money to make a film. Well, not somebody, but the funds, the public funds in my country. I submitted a script and they gave me. So I made my first film, and I left that nightmare behind. And another nightmare began. And my life is a succession of nightmares. But it never stops. I wake up screaming every day. Life in movies is waking up screaming and going to bed. What a masterclass.
But from the
What a master and what a class.
But from the very beginning, we can see a constant shift of yours, step by step, towards this idea of doing it without the usual way of producing films, doing it rather on your own. And so you're marching towards this, your very initial idea.
I always thought I was very slow, and I am, which is not bad. I mean, it's just today, if you say you're slow, you're completely off society or in jail immediately. But in the Middle Ages or the 17th century, when things were slower, a slow guy was normal. A slow girl, I like slow girls. I cannot meet a slow girl anymore. Do you understand?
Yes.
Now the idea of slow having it's out. It's completely out. You have to have an idea, an opinion. It's terrible because I do so many interviews and I have to answer and I have to think about things. I'm not a thinker. I'm not Nietzsche. I do not have ideas on cinema or life. And in this business of filmmaking, people think that filmmakers have a philosophy. They think things about, I don't know, the state of the world, what life should be, or the form of things. And my filmmakers, my dear filmmakers are, I mean, John Ford, Howard Hawks, Raoul Walsh, Jacques Tourneur, you know, these guys, if you go read their interviews, they talk about lenses, and machines, and horses, and girls, and alcohol, and work. And this kind of work, I couldn't do it when I started making films. It was just talk, and no work. I mean, what I was telling you about the directors and when I was assistant, it was that. The nights I spent hearing confessions and dreams. You know, every time almost all the directors I worked with had a dream. If I could make this, I dreamt my film. I saw my film last night. I saw my film in bed. I dreamt this scene. And I was the guy who was going to tell him, listen, your dream is not very good and he will not pay for your dream, so let's do something else. And he started crying. So this romantic idea that the film is a dream, that you can dream, and there will be somebody to support you. I still lived that experience. And when I started making my first films, I couldn't do immediately what I was supposed to do, which is what I'm more or less doing now. Because I went, my first film, even if it was made with my friends, it's a first film in every sense. I mean, most of the people that worked on the film were doing the first film for real. The actors, the technicians, with some exceptions, but it was all friends from film school or just friends. And it was a very young, at heart thing. It was black and white, very romantic. It wanted to be a tribute to all the filmmakers that I loved. Nicholas Ray and so to romantic love or young guys running away. But the production, the way that it was done was the usual tricks. It escaped me. The film is not. It's not what it's supposed to be, what it could have been, because I was still very reactionary, let's say, and I was not interested in the production. How much will we pay this guy? Shall we do this scene here or there? Can we pay the restaurant? Can we, the most stupid things that cinema is too. I always say this thing that Bertolt Brecht said. He is a guy that you can count on because he was not an intellectual. He was really a manual guy that was a brilliant writer and thinker, but that's not an intellectual. He was a real thinker because he thought with his hands. And he used to say all the time that I was really working and wasting time working and pulling my head was when he was thinking about the production, not about the art. He was trying to solve production problems in theater. And the artistic problems would be a result from that. I mean, the art comes after that, comes from that. If you know how to organize things, if you have another way of thinking and not just, the film world, or, as I told you, is a very class-orientated. It's very classy, and it's very class-orientated. There's classes, social classes, and the makeup girl is a piece of shit. The actor is a king, and the director of photography is a master, and the guy who just moves the traveling is again a piece of shit. And so everything is ruled by not competence, but this idea that photography is higher than makeup or something. And that goes with the money, of course. There's huge gaps in the film crew. And I always thought that the film crew was what you can think, if you can think about the worst society in the world, a country, if you want to crystallize that in an activity, a ridiculous activity, human activity, you just think about the film crew. It has everything, the fascism, it has all the worst germs of the worst human behavior you can think of. It's a sociological soup. You have everything there. You have sexism, you have class relations, struggles, you have fetishism, you have everything. You have militarism. If you see, you know better than if you go to Prague or Munich or Lisbon, if you see a film crew in the streets, you will always see a thing saying, do not cross. And then there's someone saying, please stop, you cannot go, because we are shooting. And then there's some guy saying, silence, with a megaphone. And then you see a guy like this. If you ever see photographs of directors in film magazines, they are always like that, always. I mean, this is, I'm not crazy, this is Kaiser William, Napoleon. Why is this director of films, why is this image, this iconography of the director of films so close to generals, to military people, it bugs me, it disturbs me, because for me it's not that, but the director should be the most fragile person in the crew. I mean, the one that are so a film crew in the streets, it's a military or a police raid. It's always a police thing. I mean, it's you know, they come, they occupy a territory, and they leave. If you had the experience of seeing a film crew in your street or something, you know, they are there, and then the next morning everything is clean, and they left without a trace. So my idea is that film should leave a trace, scars. I mean, it should destroy, it should, but not in that sense. I mean, I'm not violent in that sense, and I've always thought that film business as it is organized still and still going and still breathing is a very violent form of work. I mean, it destroys people. I mean, it annihilates people. You can become idiots. I have friends that I knew when I was 18, 20, from that period, that are still working in film, you know, done 600 million films, and they think awful things. They have miserable lives. They wasted lives. I mean, they wasted their lives because they spent days and days and days watching this ridiculous machine in motion. It's ridiculous. If you stop to think on it seems funny what I'm saying, but I'm not the first. There is a man called Costa, yes, that said exactly the same thing, more or less. He said things like, and he was one of the responsibles, I have to take my hat to him. He was one of the first who gave us our freedom and our, but I mean freedom. Some people took that freedom or took that idea. Godard, Straub, some other, well, me, I'm not comparing, but some guys here, some guys there. He said, a man, a woman, a car, in Italy, you can make a film. And he made it. He had Ingrid Bergman, but well, that's a detail. She was in love with him, so it was not his fault. But actually he said, he didn't say that he was not idiot enough to believe in a shooting, you know, to be in front of actors with lights, with a crew. And these guys are going, oh my love, I love you, wait for me, please. And she kisses him and goes out the door, and the director sees that and says, great, let's do another one. You have to be a little bit idiot to believe in this. Okay, not idiot. You have to be a bit naive. Okay, or you have to really believe in fiction, make believe. And Rossellini was one of the first guys in cinema that said, okay, without saying, without just making the films, said, I don't really believe in this kind of work anymore. And he went from, if you know his films, I don't know if you know Rossellini's films, but it's very, very clear. He made the film in a very small town in Italy. There are several villages and cities in Italy. Paisa, it's called. Then he went to an island called Stromboli. Made a film in the city, just in the city, Rome, open city. Then he went to a continent, Europe, 51. It's already Europe. And then he went even larger to India, which is already, let's say, a civilization, more than a continent. And after that he went crazy. He went to Socrates and the Messiah and Plato, philosophy, the world of ideas, the abstract world of philosophy and power and politics. So this is the work of a man that really went towards the absolutes, or got lost in the world of ideas, because he was not naive enough to... He didn't have the naivete that people in film business need to, you know, to make films. I'm not... some people say that, for instance, I was born old. I'm a Capricorn, and I like old people. I was born old. And I think if you are a little bit old, you understand that this is a ridiculous job for a man, for a woman. It could be something else, of course. It could be very serious in the Rossellini terms or John Ford terms. But it has to be made with such a seriousness. It's not passion, but it's such a serious job, work. And it can be really so profound, because there's something else connected to Rossellini again. It's that film, for me and for a lot of people, is really philosophy, visible. That's what's interesting about film. It's philosophy, visible. You can study philosophy or read texts or think and rethink concepts or ideas. But when you go to a film, if the film is what it's supposed to be, the film will make you think. It will make you even understand or disturb you. It will make you wonder. It will make you live faster. It will make you live slower. But for me, the beauty of film is that it can be philosophy in motion. It can be So Rossellini was a big help in that sense that it's no shame to make a film with no assistance, nothing. I mean, just a glass of water and a guy talking about something. I mean, then the work is something else. You have to work a lot. It's still very physical, even if it's a very intimate film or a very small production. It's still very physical. It's very tactile. It's very, you have to touch things to make a film. It's always very connected to real things, you know. And that's another thing that I always thought and I believed, and no one, less and less people seem to understand this. It's that film, if you put a camera like this gentleman is putting, what he's seeing is me in the chair. He's not seeing an idea of me, he's seeing me. Then he could go home, or now we can discuss and say, yeah, it's you, but it's not you. Please. A camera will shoot this glass, and this glass will be this glass with this here, and no more. And we have to think about it very seriously, because this is serious. If you think about this, you will not dream the dream, you know. The dream will come after, when the film is finished, with all these glasses and the tables, and perhaps it's a dream of a glass, but that's after. If you think that your camera will capture a dream or an idea, you're dead, and it's no use, because it's cinema. It's an art of movements, of real things and movements. I mean, the world. And I was telling someone outside that the only secret for making a film is it's making it efficiently. I mean, it's Chaplin and John Ford and lots of other guys always had one thought: how can I do this correctly? It's not difficult. If you're going to, Chaplin is amazing. I mean, he's running down the street, he has to cross the street, go up the stairs, and then he falls. He does 4 shots. What are the best 4 shots to do this more efficiently? That's what he thought. Because he knew about movement, he studied movement, he was an amazing dancer, the best dancer in the world. He was the best, most elegant human being ever. I think he would agree with me. So he should know something about movement. I mean, when he made this, he knew that his hand went from here to here, and this is when you cut. This is when it stops the movement, and you have to connect to another movement. And that's film. I mean, it's going from one to another shot, movement. It's not about an idea and then another idea, it's about movements. And where do they begin and where do they end? And this is a bit, I'm just talking. I was telling you about Joselin. He was, even if I'm not the biggest fan of his films, even if I like some films and others are a bit more, had a bit a tendency, I think, to was a bit psychological still. But he was a great help. He was a very, you say, courageous man. He was a very courageous man. To do what he did is really amazing. If you see a film like Stromboli and what he did with Ingrid Bergman or Rome, it's a very moving film. I mean, it's the best resistance film ever. If you think about a militant film, a political film is Rome or One City. It's the best you can aspire. Then there was some guys that went a bit more with those ideas that listen, if you are naive and if you have that naivete, then to believe in cinema that way, yeah, go do your films, your own stories, or your... If you don't, you have to start organizing things otherwise, in another way. And to organize things in another way, you have to think of money. Money for me is the obsession now, because I don't have it. If I had it, I would probably never think about it, but I began thinking about money in the place where I work, because they don't have money. So we have to do with what's there. The films I'm doing are made with what's there. So in the street, that's why I told you about the glass. I mean, to not dream about something, because elephants will not appear. You will need a lot of money for an elephant or for a Ferrari or something. And now I'm also feeling that we are almost getting to the point where we will do our films with what they take from us. If you can understand this idea. Because in the place where I am, we don't have anything else. I'm feeling like Rossellini now. We do not have the decor, the neighborhood, the houses. It's over. It's destroyed. For them, it's even, for the people I'm working, it's even more complicated because they don't have a country anymore. They feel strangers everywhere. They feel aliens. We do not have even when they are so sad, and I'm so sad that we feel that something tradition or something, the past is being taken away. We are living in houses that have no color. We are living in places that are exactly the same as everywhere. There's nothing. So I'm really feeling like Rossellini, or this idea of this road that Rossellini took is now very symbolic to me, because the only material that I have, and it's not bad, but it's memory. It's memory, their memory, the people I'm working with, plus my desire, my passion, my interest, for that memory, for them. But, there's nothing else more than memory. We do not have the wardrobe, we do not have the settings, we do not have the studios, we do not have the money. So we have to make something, I don't know, smaller, minimal, or it's not a word that I like, but I think we're going to, like Rossellini, to a place where it's something very, very probably close to theater, or some form of ancient theater or poetry, or like it used to be in Greece or here in the 13th century. A guy would come to the public square and would start talking, singing about what he saw on the road from Vienna till here, and people would then comment on what he told them, but it's so well, but this is my vision of what's happening. It's just personal. Do not take it seriously. Go to a film school, do it the right way, and then you do your fantastic first film, and then second, third. I was just the guy who I couldn't live with this. I still remember my first film, when I made my first film, I had an assistant. I was assistant for so long. And then one day, I heard the bell of my house. It was 6 o'clock in the morning, I think. I went down and I saw this poor assistant. So I saw myself, and the guy was like, "Good morning, master." You didn't say master. And then he opened the door of the car, rented car, big car. And I sat, and he said, "Nice day." And then he said, how's things? So today will be the scene where Nino will tell his father that he's going away. And I said, "Yeah, that's a beautiful scene." And you look at the guy. Do you think so? Oh, it's the most amazing thing in the history of cinema. It's driving to, and you're you want to run away from the car, and you want to commit suicide, triple suicide, you want to kill the guy, and then you get to the place where you're shooting and somebody will come running and say, oh, good morning, boss, and immediately you will ask, do you want chicken or fish for lunch? And then another guy will come and say, where do you want the camera? And then the tough decisions begin. But just this idea of a guy coming for 7 weeks with a car to pick you up to your house was completely, again, pathetic. It has nothing to do with my life. My life is not that. Nobody comes to pick me up in my life. So why is this 7-week luxury moment so strange? I mean, I never understood this, you know, because the life of a filmmaker, the filmmakers that probably are guests in this festival too, is a life of 7, 6, 5, 10 week luxury, complete. You can eat all the chicken and all the fish. You have a car, you have a guy, you have and more things if you want them, of course. You know what I mean. And you're making a film. I never understood this. I don't know. I was, again, people that I liked worked in a kind of factory, you know. They drove to the work. They made a film. They went to lunch in the cantina. Then they made the rest of the film. At 6 o'clock they went home, to the kids, to the wife, and that's what I wanted, really. I like that. I wanted, but it's not possible. So that society, that world, it was a very American world, actually. But I thought that some sort of this kind of system could work. The author independent, how do you say, modern cinema life it was not for me. So I tried to find a way that could be less painful in everyday life. So by chance, by, I don't know, a miracle happened to me, that I met these people and I got to a place and I made that place my own studio or lab or house where I work, I think, I live sometimes. And it's great because I do not have to change, I do not have to search for ideas again, like Samuelem is strange because you can really think about him, and he used to say, you don't have to invent anything, things are there. Things are there, you don't need to be stressed, or you don't need even to have to make the effort of putting your imagination to work, because things are here. Problem is finding the things. It's not easy, but I had the chance of finding them. But and this idea of that I told you about, the naivete, or to believe in making films, it's very important. It's connected to another idea. It's the idea that film is something that works with imagination. Imagination of the ones that make the film and the ones that see the film. And I think that's not, I do not believe in that. Or I belong to another kind of family. Or I think imagination has nothing to do with cinema. Normally when the imagination is in the film is already done several times before. It's just a copy of a copy of a copy. I think there is no comparison between what I think about and what is much more powerful. So when I got to that place, my dialogues, my ideas, my feelings, my intentions just disappeared, because when somebody said, when I proposed, let's talk about your mother, and a boy told me some things about his mother, it was nothing, it was 10,000 times better or more important or crucial, vital than I ever thought. So I think, how to tell this famous again, and you know, I don't know, probably some of you have already done some sort of film or video or tried with a little camera. But I don't know if you have this feeling. It's a feeling that every filmmaker had in his life. I have that feeling a lot. Now less and less. Is that you have all your actors and your scene, and you have the camera and the lights, and everybody's prepared to do the thing, and then just by chance, because the wind is blowing, you turn your head and you see something there. It could be just a ray of light, or a little kid, or the clouds. And you look at that, and then you look at your thing and you say, I want that. That's what I want. So that's what I think. It's always better that way. That's the problem. And I always thought, when I saw those kind of films with a lot of, you know, a lot of delirium and a lot of, it will never be as good as it is, you know, the sky, the clouds, the forest, the water, human beings, they are better live, in real life. Cinema is just a pastiche, it's just a copy, very bad copy of things. But that happened to me a lot, and so I thought, I will never use my imagination because it's very small, it's no good, and I'm very, I mean, I do not have things to tell people. I don't have messages or ideas or images that I want to invent or create. I'm not an inventor, visionary guy that sees things that nobody sees. What I do, everybody would do it if they would work like I'm working, and if they have the same conditions that I try to have. And I really, this seems very, probably no one says that this in festivals, film festivals. I really sometimes prefer to talk about cinema as a sociological thing, as an historical, a way of studying things in sociology, in politics, in economics, in philosophy. I prefer that kind of thing. But it can be beautiful. I mean, to give you 20 examples of, I Walked with a Zombie. It's a film that I love. If you see that thing, it's like, I don't know. It's very high art, poetry. It's like Rimbaud, Verlaine. So it's really very good poetry. It's very good. You can read the sonnet by Shakespeare and you see that film. It's equal. It's very high. And it's just a small 70-minute film about the decay of the world. The decay, the decadence. I think it's intellectual. I don't want to talk like that. But just to say that I prefer that we talk about cinema as a way of research, you know. It's better to to start like that. Research something, a friend, a father, a mother, a situation, a street. It's much better. You will get results, simple results, or you will say, it's not exactly that. I have to rethink about this, my distance, my approach. If you start thinking about, like, I want to do something like David Lynch, you're dead. You're dead because I'm not saying bad things about David Lynch. It's not at all. But I'm just saying David Lynch lives in Mulholland Drive, LA, California. I think these films are not very expensive. They are, actually. And he has a vision, and he has the means to give you that vision in a very fancy way. To make a sound like that, it's billions of dollars. To make the image, the effects of the image like that, it's trillions of dollars. To have that actor, that just the material things are very difficult. And then the ideas, I think you have to start low. Cinema is something that was born in the streets, in the corner of the street with a dog and a guy. The first films, if you go see it, all the first films are just a poor guy on the corner, and then a girl comes, and then a car very fast, a small dog. There's always a dog. And then the girl with the white dress. It's the street, it's the people, and it was the people. Fritz Lang said it was an art of the people, for the people, to the people. See what it meant. So I think it's much better to start that way, very low, because that's the things that cinema can capture. I don't think the film can capture, a film or a video or a small camera can capture your wildest dreams. Because your wildest dreams are my dreams, and they are not different, you know that. I have your dreams, and you have my dreams, so let's forget about that and concentrate about the real stuff. Because the real stuff will be much wilder. That's what I'm telling you. When you turn your head from the film, you will see something much crazier, much crazier. But you have to turn it the right moments, the right way. So you have to be very, very careful and very patient and you have to be very attentive and very intense. That's what I learned from Bonnie, that guy in the film school. You have to try to live your life like. Then I had another friend. I have another friend called Straub. That I don't know if you know. Is for me the greatest filmmaker of the last 40 years. Perhaps with Costa. And he made all his films with his wife called Danielle. She died 6-7 years ago. And they did the most, for me, beautiful films that one can do. Really. And with the most beautiful human beings, voices, trees, birds, nothing fancy, nothing elegant, nothing. And but the beauty is not only the films, the beauty was that this couple, they lived life like the first day they met. Every time I saw them, I thought, they are living like the first day they met. You have that feeling, that they are living everything very intensely, like if they were in love every day. That's the word. Well, we all know it's very difficult to be in love every second, because it's not every minute, it's every second. That's what he told me. And be precise, not radical, that's not a good word, radical, it's be simple, be Jean-Marie Strauss said, sometimes he says things that for me are very moving. He makes films the old way, the old fashioned, like John Ford. You have the image and you have the sound. And you have one image and you have one sound. Can you still believe this? It's difficult, but you have just the sound that goes with the image. It's called direct sound. Nobody in the world does this. Nobody. You have 15 microphones and then you go to the editing with your computers, Final Cuts. And you mix and you transform and you put millions of things and music and stuff, and in the end the original sound of that image is never there. Strauss believes that the image of this and the sound of this is this and nothing else. This is life. We have to understand that this is life. If you want to make movies, he said, this is life. When you separate the sound from the image, it's very strong, but actually he didn't say like this. He said, when I make a shot of a bird flying and singing, if you cut the bird and the sound is cut in half, that's the beginning of fascism. So you have to respect the sound as you respect the image, because the image everybody more or less respects. Everybody puts image before sound. If you want to think about other things, you can. The words and the thoughts, imagination, reality. Now we're just thinking about images and sound. And you have to respect the sound. I said, if you start cutting your sound, and the bird is cut in half, the singing is not complete, then you can make everything you want, but it will never be the bird. You are not respecting the world. So in a sense, you're not respecting cinema, you're not respecting yourself, and you will lead a bad life, in every sense. I do not think this is radical. I think it's very difficult to live a life like that. It's a saint, or saints, or martyrs, or revolutionaries, people that have saved us, or thought for us, or made beautiful films for us. They sometimes can do this kind of thing, but we should aspire to this. I think we should have the ambition to do this kind of thing, and not do again the 800,000 version of, I don't know, The Godfather, or Apocalypse Now, or a romantic story. This has gone too far.
So, what can you tell us, let's say, about Ventura? Like in terms of keeping some mystery of the character. Like, I think Ventura is the best example for this.
Well, that's a very strange relation, and very, it's personal almost. I cannot talk about that because he's a friend more than anything else. Is a friend. It's a very. But I can tell you something that probably it's all in my head. Everything makes sense for me, or sometimes everything makes sense. And Ventura was somebody that I met in that neighborhood that some of you saw already. Those houses, those streets. When I was shooting my first film also there, Vanda. As always, when you make a film, you are a bit spaced, like with drugs, out of place, out of time. You're never absolutely conscious. So when I was going away late at night or coming in the morning with my camera, because I was doing this film alone, more or less. And when I was not alone, I was with just a friend who did the sound. And we always saw Ventura, this guy, in the morning, far away, like he's a very tall, big, black, beautiful man. So, the idea of a pioneer, of some sort of king, and I'm talking about 10, 15 years ago, so he was younger, he was still very strong, and very tough guy. So I always saw him when I got to the neighborhood and when I left. And I just exchanged some words with him, good morning. And slowly, day by days passed, and we began to exchange one or two words, so like, how's it going? And he used to say, I said, yeah, well, it's tough, you know, film is difficult. So tomorrow we will do that. Always very peaceful, very serene. And I had this idea that Ventura was a sort of sentinel, you know, soldier, because the neighborhood was a kind of a fortress or a castle, and it was, because a ghetto is like a fortress, and it has its soldiers because of drugs also. They had people watching for the cops, for the police. Ventura was not one of those, but he was, you know, people have to be extra. I always say, I'm very proud and very of my friends in the neighborhood, because I think they need the double, triple of the concentration that we need. Their world is much more difficult, tougher, they need much more patience, concentration and intelligence and acuteness to just not to die, you know, because he seemed to me this kind of guy, very intelligent, he knew exactly what I was feeling, what I was experiencing, and I just saw him as the ideal assistant director. This is my assistant director. A guy that watches over me, just I can look at him and I believe in this guy. So one day, and he's half crazy, but not that much. And one day I took my courage and I asked him if he wanted to be in the film, in one film, and he said yes, like that. Okay. And I thought he was going to say, are you crazy, or run along, little boy, go away. But no, he said yes. So we began a relation and work. But what I feel with Ventura, because he's from Africa, he speaks Creole, Portuguese too. He's a bit older than me, he's from a very different social class, from a very different part of the world, from completely different sociological world. The films we're trying to do is a kind of meeting. I'm trying to meet him, and he's trying to meet me, and it's like if there was a a sea, a black sea, an ocean between us, of all the evil that the world is capable of. It shouldn't be like this. I was born some way, and he was born, he was born very poor, and it shouldn't be like that. So we're trying to meet somewhere, but I have the feeling that the film, if we make films, the film should be what's in the middle, not him or me, it's in the middle. For now, in the middle is still very black, it's still very mysterious, it's still very dense. It's interesting, it's very violent, it's very interesting. And I think it will always be like that. I think between two people as profoundly in love that they can be, or it will always be, there will be something very mysterious between the two people that, well, it's not new, but there will be always something that we do not know about our lover. And the films, I think, should be about that secret part, the part that we don't know. It's much more interesting because probably that's the, yeah, I don't want to think about that because it's there for you to work. For me it's more obvious because he speaks another language, he comes from another world, so it's not exactly like me, it's not my brother, my partner is not from... But I think there is a lot of work to be done. I think any serious film should be about research, and researching this. What's between me and you, what's between me and my father, or my brother, or so always something that lies between people, or for me it's what's most interesting. I was telling about this. A lot of things when you work this way also, or if you prepare yourself this way, I'm not saying for you to do this kind of thing, because I don't even know what this method is. It has no principles, it has no rules. But if you decide to do films like, not a scientific thing, but like a very common research thing. You can call them documentaries if you prefer. A lot of stuff will come by chance, almost. By chance. And I'm not saying that you will point your camera and something extraordinary will happen, like on YouTube. Fantastic things happening. It's not that. It's if you work every day, if a film is a work of every day, like it should be, and not just the 7 weeks. A lot of things will happen, will be given to you by the... You don't even need to think about those things because they will be there. I just tell you about a story that I think is very nice. In Vanda's room, I think this film I made is 3 hours long, and in the middle of the film somewhere there is a shot that lasts exactly 18 seconds. And this shot is a little girl sitting on a table in her house, learning, doing homework. And she's going ba, ba, be, be, bo, bo, doing her homework. And So you see the kitchen, you see the little girl, and you hear the sound, direct sound, what's happening. And what happens is confusion. 3,000 TVs, music, dogs barking, guys shouting, and well, the noise, the awful noise of life, the street. And well, it's a shot that I made because I love that little girl. She's almost 20 today. And it seemed very, very nice. I did the shot for plastic reasons, for aesthetic reasons. I thought it was very beautiful. And the light was nice. And then when I edited the film, I just don't remember, but I, well, put the shot somewhere, it's there. Actually, it's in between two very violent scenes where a guy goes to a shot of heroin here, another guy is. And when I showed when the film was first shown in the neighborhood for the people, we had, like always, a very violent, violent in a good sense, discussion, debate about the film and what was right, wrong, good, bad, their opinion, mine. But anyway, one of the guys, one of the younger guys, the more political guys in the neighborhood, guy works with me all the time, called Teacher. He's a rapper. He suddenly said, I want to say something because it's very important that I say this now. You have to see the shot of Maria. Maria is the little girl. You remember the shot of Maria? Everybody. Even myself, I mean, 18 seconds and 3 hours I read. And he said, this is the most important shot of this film. Forget about the drugs, forget about the violence and everything. This is a shot that reminds us that we have to be extra concentrated to do homework. Our young people here have to be double conscious, double intelligent, double strong, extra strong to survive. Because this is a tough territory. We will always be shouting and dancing and singing and with knives killing each other, and there will always be a little girl learning how to read and write. And that little girl, that little boy has to be extra strong to learn. And I thought this is the best, I mean, this is film critique, you know, this is what they should be writing about. And it's a very, you know, I did the shot for those reasons, but actually the shot is there, so there is something happening in my head now, unconscious, on their side, on that side. And I'm proud of the shot, but not for artistic reasons, you know, well, some lightning, pictorial stuff made me do the shot, but really what the shot means is what he told me. And it's true, what the shot means is that it's tough for a little girl to learn their lessons, school lessons in that world. And that world is 80%, 90% of the planet. Africa, India, Asia, the south of the United States. Again, this is, you know, this kind of, it's priceless. It's like Ventura. Ventura is, as I told you, a pioneer. He's an immigrant. He's the guy who left his country with nothing to risk his life to get some money for his family, for everything. Like, he has that side, and he has the other side, the failure, the guy that's failed, the guy that fell. It's not symbolic, he really fell because he was a worker and he fell down to the ground and he hit his head and he has problems with his hand and with his brain. And so he's a victim, he's a loser. So he's the pioneer and the loser. He has both sides. And when I met him, it was very clear for me that these two sides were there. It was a hero, an epic hero, like you see in westerns, for me, and the bum, really the guy in the streets, the guy in the gutter, the guy that lost, the last man, like Murnau film, the last man. And then we did this film together, the Colossal Youth. And again, another guy, when the film was shown there, told everybody, I want to say something and I want to thank Ventura, because we always see him hanging around the neighborhood, barefoot, dirty, crazy, singing, drinking beers, and falling around. And then we look at you in this film, this screen, and you are the only one that can represent all of us. We're so thankful for your presence. So this work is very, I'm very proud of this kind of work because it's done by Ventura, by the people of the neighborhood, but it means something. It means something for them. This is, you don't need to know these kind of things. I'm just telling you because this is a masterclass. You don't need to know this to see the films, but just to tell you that this kind of things there is a mechanic, there is an automatism in this kind of work. And I still believe if you take the right road, some mechanics will be offered to you. If you take the right side, I think God will be very nice to you if you take the right road. If you take the wrong road, your things will be very nice and beautiful. But if you take the right, wrong road, I think smaller stuff will be there, even you will not be aware of the miracles. But I'm a guy who likes the routine, you know. I do not like the exception. That's why I don't like, when I say I don't like cinema, is that I really do not like exceptional moments. I like the routine, you know. I like the routine of life. Just plain, simple, beautiful life without ups and downs.
I have no idea how possibly could look a music video for an Empire Weekend you are told to be doing.
Oh, I don't know that, so don't even think about that because I don't want to talk about that. I prefer talking about other things. That's an exceptional moment. I really didn't do the video. I helped them. I helped them because they liked some, I don't know which of my films. One of them, they are intellectuals, and they said if I would like, and I said I can help you with some stuff, but the guy who really did the thing was a friend of mine. I was there all the time, but. It's a world that if I did the video as I wanted, or they wouldn't be pleased, for sure. But that's an exceptional thing that it's not very. It's very difficult music in films. It's very difficult. You know, it's. without sound. You're doing a film about a song and there is no song. They didn't even have a playback. They were just, they had an ear thing and they were hearing an iPad, an iPod, and they sang. No, I did a film with music that and that was, again, everything that you hear is there, it's happening, and everything that is right, wrong.
You brought the same system of work from Fontaine. The same, nothing changed when you started the Changery.
Yeah, it's exactly the same, trying to be at the same level of what's... One thing very important for me now is that you're not more important than, you know, what's in front of the camera. And the same, what's in front of the camera cannot be more important. The balance should be correct between all the values. And what I did was, I tried to be one member of the band. I tried to be the fifth or member of that musical band. And try to work quietly so that they... What happens is that I like when people are... It's a research film. It's I don't know if you saw that film, but they are playing, they are composing songs and trying things. And when we were shooting, they were doing this and I was doing the film, so, you know, everybody's working and it's great. But when I'm shooting Vanda, she's also working. I'm trying my camera, I'm working with my cameras, trying to have the right shot, frame, light, everything, sound. And she's trying to have the right word, text, tempo, rhythm, look. So it's great when both sides are working, really working. But you have to have very good people to, like Vanda, to really accept work, to try to go very far, because otherwise you will have the same old actor coming Tuesday with the scene, shall I go in another way, and then it will go away and that's over. I like when there is a kind of, you're researching something behind the camera and they are researching something in front of the camera. But it can be words or music or emotions or... The girl who sings in my film, Jeanne Balibar, she's trying rhythm and tempo. She's trying to find the best way to sing the song. But Vanda is also trying to find the best, well, not the best, but trying to find lost feelings sometimes. There are scenes that I think she's trying to find not only a memory, but a feeling for that memory. And that's very material for me. Sometimes especially that film, Vanda's Room, I think it's very material. I think she's very... Even the room moves when she thinks. So the walls, it's like Cleopatra, she thinks and the walls collapse.
Any questions?
I'm sorry to have said the things I said. Destroyed so many dreams. But I think it's no use. To keep the lie going on, you know. It's because it's most of the cinema being made today is a lie, I think. Can be a very... I also see things more on TV. I don't go to that many theaters, cinemas, but I see DVDs and I see American or German or contemporary films, more American because it's a problem because of, you always go for a bad American movie, you never go for a bad Turkish movie. It's very unjust. And I see very bad American movies on DVDs late at night, and I know, and I sometimes like them. It's like cake. You eat the big cake and you know it's very bad for you, but you eat the cake. But, or drugs, you could say the same thing. It's like a shot or of something, some drug when you see. But the other thing is what you could do with film is, it's not a dream, it's really amazing what you can do with the camera. And there are incredible things done with cameras and microphones. So the possibility is there. Conditions are very complex. I don't know, if I was young now, beginning to do films, I would be, even when I was young, I told you, it was not exactly what I wanted to do. And slowly I became, well, more comfortable with the situation. But today, for a young guy to do a first film, and I'm not talking about first films in festivals in Europe or things like that, because that's the worst. And didn't want to talk about that because we are in a festival and we are in a festival where a lot of filmmakers come. But of course there is, for me, a very, very nasty part of just this story that goes on in festivals. Not in this one, but festivals has an idea of financing of there is always the danger of lobbies, of small circles, and I think it's very, very unjust. Most of the films today that you will see, that you saw already and you are going to see the next 5 years, will be produced, will be decided at 4 o'clock in the morning between 2 drunk guys in Locarno Film Festival in Venice. It shouldn't be like that, because I think it shouldn't. That's the system. It's the truth. That's the truth. Then there's a road that you follow after that beer at 4 o'clock in the morning. It's the world of Brussels and film committees and financing, papers and papers and papers. And that has nothing to do with the practice. And it's a way of keeping the director away from the real problems. That's what I think. I think any young guy today has no idea if his money is dirty or not. Just that simple fact. I like my money to be really dirty. I know it comes from drugs. It comes from. Sometimes it came when I did those films. And I know I'm paying them to buy drugs. Sometimes in documentary film festivals there's when you pay Vanda, she will buy drugs. Of course I know, if I had more money, I would buy her more money to buy more drugs. And one day she would understand I will stop drugs, as she did. And it was her decision. Or she would commit suicide. But I defy any, young guest with a first film in this festival. doesn't know where his money comes from. How much this guy was paid, how much the hotel, how much... And I think the films suffer from that ignorance. I'm completely... It's the only thing I really truly believe. I believe if the young filmmaker, the best thing he can do is grab his means of production. And he's the master of the money. If he has a good idea for a film, the good idea should be to distribute the money correctly. That's the first idea. Correctly doesn't mean, knowing how to spend the money. It's as important as knowing how to do the shot, the sound, actor. So it's never very interesting, this kind of masterclass with me. It goes always to the same awful point where I think we should eradicate, strong word, but there's lots of intermediaries in film. Not talking about festivals. Festivals, ultimately, should be like a harbor, like the final point where the boat arrives. But doing a film today is, you have so many in-between stuff, in-between guys. You know what I'm talking about, agents, double agents. Now there are even people, you know that in festivals, and I'm completely against that. I think it's the worst point of, it's, how should they call it, sales agents. This is, sales agents is someone that, a company that is in every major festival, sees a film, likes the film, sends a girl or a man, talk to the producer of the film and say, I want to be your sales agent. And so this person, this company will get a commission percentage of every sale or every dollar that the film will make. If you are a young filmmaker and if you have made your film with your own money or something, you shouldn't go to these guys, because the quality of the film depends just on you go to the festival, people see it, they like it, they don't, he fights for the film sometimes he doesn't. The film fails or succeeds. It's life. But the film will always be something, and the film will always be something. It's there or it isn't. And if this guy made the film and he gives it away to an agent, it means he will give away a part of himself, even of his money, because these guys take money from, other festivals, other places, other TVs, other stuff. And so it's like parasites, sorry to say, but the film business is one of the worst, the most populated with parasites. It's a body full of parasites. Money is lost somewhere in the process. So I think that this lack of conscience in filmmakers, it's very serious. I never talk about what the films are, or the talent, or the filmmaker, because that's, for me, I have my opinions about my colleagues, and they have on me. I don't think it's interesting for me to formulate that, but I can have an opinion on the way they produce the films, and why some films succeed, the way some films succeed or are visible because they were bought by agents, or they were promoted by a group of critics. You're probably hearing this from a guy, you're thinking, but you are one of them. More or less, my films are much more tougher in the sense that you confront some things that are not especially sellable. My films do not sell them. They can be artistic monuments. Some people say they are wonderful, beautiful masterpieces and all that kind of crap, but when you come to the money, let's go for the tropical forest and the monsters. That's what sells. But that, what I would say is, please, if you want, some of you want to make films, do not abandon this Brechtian idea that take care of the means of production and really think about how are you going to produce the film, and then the artistic stuff will come from that. I believe that's profoundly. I did it and it works for me. And I still believe that you have two jobs. You have to make the film and you have make the best film you can and try to pass the idea that the film is possible with very little money. Try to pass that idea. It's not being a martyr, and do not make poor films. It's not making poor films. I think in Van der Voort is one of the, if I was not the director, I would say it's one of the richest films that I have seen. Rich in the sense of, there's a lot to see, I think. Visual and sound and words and ideas and proposals. And this kind of small room philosophy, small neighborhood philosophy. And, but try to, you know, if you take care of that, it's half the way there, I think. If you start really sending your script to Brussels and a producer and a sales agent, and something is lost. Something is lost. And I think it's one of the reasons that we are where we are. Some artistic achievements in cinema in the last 10 years are not there for me. I'm sorry to say that there are a lot of films that do not live to the expectations. They are, but well, I do not want to criticize anyone. Just saying that at the same time, I think we are in a very transitional moment. Something will happen. Theaters will probably have less films to show, and films will be shown in online cinematics, and film festivals will be online probably.
There are some.
I was telling someone yesterday, I have a contract. I have a North American DVD with friends that work with me. When I make a film, they put it out in North America. They are very competent. They are very good in what they do, and they are more or less powerful. And they did my film, so I was very interested in why, and so I had long discussions with them, and I understood. And some of them really liked the films. Some had an interest in, not economic, not because they lost money, but they said people have to see this, so I thought, okay, it's good for me, it's good. Even if we lose money, but the contract, it's a very, very big contract. And it has some part where I think it's from 2015. So in 2 years, I will have to be available 3 times a year, I think, in 1 or 2 days for several hours to discuss with the audiences online. Because what they do now is DVDs. What they will do, probably in 2, 3, 4 years, it's kind of festival cinematheque online. You probably know them, they are called Criterion. It will be Criterion Cinematheque or something. So it will be a bit like you here. I mean, I will be in my home, probably, and from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, I will be a guest in screens, and I will talk about the film. Like if I went to a festival, like if I went here, if I came here, but I will be on Skype or something like that with the audience. So they will have a screening of my whole films, and the last day I will be with them. And this will be the Cinematheques online. You will pay, you will be a member or a friend or with a, you will pay your monthly tickets. So I don't know, it will change a lot. Things will be, I think everything will be much expensive, like much more expensive to make a film. That's what I think. This lie that video is cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, I don't see it, really do not see it. If you want to do a sound mix or a post-production job on a film, it's very expensive. Or you do it at home, it can be done. If you go to a sound studio, it's very expensive. It's even more expensive because people tend now to do small films with your camera, and they don't have the money to finish it. And then they cannot show it. Because, yeah, show it on YouTube or Vimeo, stuff like that.